Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 51's after show. Talk about some beta range DPS impressions with DPSonRoids and TwinTop for the Warlords of Draenor beta. And there they are. Boop. Hello.
Hello.
Oh, hey.
Hi.
All right.
I was saying, while you were on break and you couldn't hear me, Bae, that you would have to direct your question at Celestialon on Twitter like all of the lowly peons who don't have shows.
Wow. But
Wow.
what? I would want to put it in this show so the chat room can read it and we can spread the good news. Because not everyone has Twitter.
I know. Well, we'll see. Perhaps he'll answer you afterwards. Maybe we'll see.
Maybe.
Maybe we'll see a YouTube comment.
Well, I don't think have any of the devs YouTube commented yet? I don't know.
Probably not. Maybe they have and we just don't know it.
They're on different names on YouTube. Sneaky.
Well, I don't know if you have any questions for the after show, but I definitely have a couple.
Yeah, well, I had one
for
question
these
that
guys.
I pushed out. It was a Q&A that came in from the main show here about Shadow Priest, and we can do the same thing for Warlocks, too. I was just prefacing this. Another question came in from Keldarik. What are your thoughts towards the secondary stats for Shadow Priests? More crit for more auspicious spirits? Mastery for Mind Blast spike damage? Haste for lower GCD? Or in my mind, whatever the hell you get because you can't choose.
Well, from what I've seen, for auspicious spirits,
Right.
where do they come from? They come from shadowy apparitions, which come from Shadow Word Pain crits. So yeah, absolutely, crit's going to be number one for auspicious spirits. On beta right now, if you go and get the PvP gear and get all the crit pieces, you can get close to 30% crit with all of the enchants and food and flasks. And it's already ridiculous. I'm expecting that as the expansion goes on, they'll probably change it from everyone hits to, I got 60% chance that it won't do damage and will give you a Shadow Orb, which kind of stinks, but otherwise it's just going to be too many.
Right.
For Clarity of Power, absolutely Mastery, because Mind Blast is on a reduced cooldown, and Mind Spike scales with the damage from Mastery and from Clarity of Power, so you get a double dip in there. And that's 80% of your damage sources, basically, in a single target. For Void Entropy, Haste is best. Yeah, Haste is actually the stat that we have our attunement for, but Haste isn't number one for the other two specs. That doesn't mean it's bad. It's probably going to be like number two.
Right.
I would like to see Auspicious Spirits be changed to leverage multi-strike, because Devouring Plague leverages multi-strike right now, in that if you get a... So Devouring Plague always lasts 4 GCDs. But if you refresh it, then you get the Ignite mechanic going on. Well, if you get a multi-strike, it counts as a refresh, so you end up getting 7 ticks instead, which is an extra chance to proc like Surge of Darkness, or more channeling time on Mindflay and Insanity. So since it's already built in there and that's what you're spending your orbs on, I would love for something to be in place for Auspicious Spirits to make it favor multi-strike. So you have Haste is always a number 2, doesn't matter what your level 100 is, but what is actually best changes.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to make, to my understanding, every secondary stat is good for every spec in the game. So you have no dud stats. Like right now, certain classes are like
Haste for warriors or something.
Right.
Yeah.
But there is
People
always going to...
call their bad stat the dud stat, but only in a very few cases do you
Correct.
have a stat that is really that bad that you don't want a piece of gear with that on it.
Right, and I think that they want stats to all feel like you're gaining power regardless of which one you get. However, there might be one that is just better at a percentile argumentative sim crafting math level. Sure, that's fine.
Yeah.
The attunement stat, which I love that they actually changed like the names of all of them, so they're not just like Mastery Attunement. That was all a placeholder. That's just a baseline to go for that. Doesn't necessarily mean that's your best stat though, which I hope gets translated really well when the game comes out. That's not your best stat. That's just a direction you can take if you're not super into knowing what the heck your class needs.
Right. It's one of those signposts of, hey, go this way.
Exactly, go that way.
But-
What about
Oh, no, go ahead.
I'll say, what about Warlocks, though, Roids? Like, how are all your secondaries really working out together with each other, and how the different specs... Each of the 3 different ways you can DPS, different stats work differently for all 3 of them, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like usually you want haste to a certain threshold as F and then mastery. On beta right now, I've just been doing mastery, enchants, and stuff. Really though, if you're interested in like what your best stat is going to be, that's a question you need to ask when it goes live, because the answer is just going to change. So I mean, I could sit here and say mastery is the best, but you know, it's not going to be. It might not be true. So
that's true.
But as far as like the other specs, how they interact with certain stats, you know, mastery and haste, it's actually pretty interesting, because before with demo, you could go full haste build, or you could go full mastery build, and it really depended on how much AoE the fight required. So if the fight required a ton of AoE, I would gem and reforge all my stuff to mastery, but if it was straight single target, I would dump that all into haste. And I think that's actually really cool, and I like that. So I hope the secondary stats are close enough where you can do stuff like that, where, you know, for specific scenarios like that, you can optimize your gear and your character in that way.
But that comes down to really the only changes you can make to your gear are not set pieces, because your set pieces will be set. Like that's it, because you can't reforge it.
Right.
You can maybe regem a couple of things, but then after that, like you have different bracers or different one-off set piece or different boots or different rings, maybe.
Yeah.
That's your only change, really.
Right. Well, the enchants too. They
True.
They have like all stats for every piece now. So what you would do is you would just regem and re-enchant your gear if one is better than the other.
Do we know if the leatherworking and the kits are still in the game? Like the leg kit, is that still a thing? What about
leg kit?
I'm not sure. I know that like shoulder enchants are gone.
Right.
The cloak enchant perks stuff's gone. I think the leg enchants are gone as well.
Leg enchants gone. So all we'll have for enchanting is gloves, boots, bracer.
There's more than that.
No.
There's more than that. There's also weapon. One is crit, one is haste, and
yeah.
What else
the secondary
is there?
stat enchants are neck, back rings, and then the weapons are all secondary stat enchants with different effects. And then your food and your flasks are secondary.
Right, of course. And because I know, and they'll be different. There'll be lots more options than just like agility flask or int flask. As far as I know, right? There'll be more options.
Yeah, there's one of everyone.
Correct.
Including spirit, but not spirit enchants.
Right. Spirit is very much. We'll talk about that when we get to healer stuff. Is the whole spirit change, but because right now you can basically cast with reckless abandon in PvP gear, unless you make really dumb choices and cast your most ineffective spell. So I wonder how it's going to work for healer mana, because like the active thing is gone, but you get more spirit eventually, but it doesn't scale up that much. So is healing going to be harder with more gear, which doesn't make any sense. So it's weird. We'll have to see how that works when we get to healer beta stuff. But basically, yeah, for you guys and for Anna and myself too, like basically whatever we get for secondary stats is whatever we get, outside of some trinket changes. Yeah, I mean trinket changes can affect. Which actually might bring different life to different trinkets, because right now every class just has like 2 you get, and then you're done for a tier, right? I wonder if we'll have trinket options, maybe?
Maybe.
I don't know.
It all depends on what they are at this point. Nothing's been released, you know.
Blizzard is notorious for having issues with trinket balance, so...
Well, I have a question that we can move along to, if you guys are...
Go for it. I'm checking Twitter right now for more. Yeah, go for it.
Okay, this actually is a great question that came in chat a couple minutes ago from Render Entropy. He would like to ask what Midwinter and /Hug think about range DPS versus melee DPS for raid comps based on beta for your respective raid teams. Do you think Blizzard has changed anything to merit bringing in more melee? Let's go with TwinTop first, and then Roids.
You know, we don't really stack. Because most people only have one character. Maybe they'll have a couple, so we don't really have the options. Just like everybody right now, we try to favor ranged over melee, but in my opinion, because of the DPS movement changes, it levels the playing field some more. Because now it's not, you know, anytime the boss has to move, melee gets screwed and range can just stand still, or everybody has to move and range are still doing like 80% of their damage instead of none, or you know 10% or whatever. So I think it's going to balance it back out. With that being said, there have only been 2 bosses tested
I can't really tell yet. And they've been
I
tested.
wasn't able to get in. Like
Yeah.
I tried to make new characters, and I was getting that character doesn't exist, even on a brand new character.
Yeah.
So I haven't actually seen any of the raids.
It's all guesswork at this point.
And everything
Educated guesswork, but
and you can't do even educated guesswork on heroic fights because you have more people, which changes the dynamic of the fight, and it's not mythic difficulty too. So we have so much to still figure out, and what mechanics change in mythic now. Like,
and
we'll
mythic being 20-man instead of split 25 and 10 is going to make it a lot easier, because there's cases where there's some fights it's like, well, we can totally ignore range mechanics because we just bring in a bunch of melee, hey, whatever. Or, oh, there's too many people clumped up in one spot, so 10-man has an obvious advantage. Now it's going to be level.
Yeah. And I mean, we'll see. And I just want to respond a little to what you said about how you guys don't stack. Like, we don't stack either. In my guild, we all have one character. Nobody in my guild switches out characters for what classes are better. But for people like us, it impacts recruiting a lot, because I don't think we've recruited a melee in like the last 2 years. I'm pretty sure that all we've recruited is ranged, and our melee roster has just naturally gotten smaller. And no melee wants to see that. You don't want to be a melee looking for a guild and be like, well, I'm a good player even though I know that I'm not a warlock or a mage. So, but Royd, so since you do play in a guild that does multiple alts and stacking and such, what do you think of the changes for beta? Have you seen anything that's going to make life a little better for melee in the upcoming tier?
I mean, the only insight I could give was on the few bosses we've seen. They seemed. I think what is a nerf to range is this, or rather balancing both of them. I think that's what they're getting at with this can't do DPS while moving thing they're doing. Because that's one of the main perks of being a melee, is you can do damage while moving. So if ranged are punished for moving a lot now, then maybe the balance will tip in that favor. Because historically, ranged have generally always been better than melee on any given fight.
Since Wrath, basically.
Yeah. So
since Ellie Shaman got moving lightning bolt, basically.
Yeah. So I really think that this whole movement thing is really gonna hopefully balance the roles a little better, because melee, you can just sit there and whack on the target.
Yeah.
And so I'm sorry I can't really give too much insight on that, but
that's okay. We haven't had enough raid testing, I think.
Yeah.
It's something good to keep in mind, though.
Yeah. I think a couple shows from now on this beta junket, when we bring on May Hunters or different range or different melee, we can actually get more into how it's felt. Because I mean, the optimal balance Blizzard wants is to have a half and half, basically. If you bring 12 DPS or whatever, you have 6 of both, whatever. You don't want to have 2 melee and then all ranged. They don't want that balance, so that's just poor game design,
Yeah, generally I think our average is 6 or 7 melee on a fight, and then double the amount of ranged, or almost double the amount of ranged, and then healers and tanks. So it's you can't really do that when there's, how many melee classes are there? Like 7?
More than that. Yeah, it just sucks when you're okay, so
and now Windwalker's viable, so it's just all right, we have all these melee classes we have to fit in, and it just feels like there's not enough spots for it. So
it sucks when you're one of those melee classes, and even if you're not in a Midwinter type guild, and you're in a guild that's more like me and TwinTop, and you're sitting there in your applicant forum, and you're like, wow, can we really afford to have more than one ret? And then it's should we recruit a 4th warlock, or should we recruit a 5th one? That's just that's really not the kind of thing
that Muru logic.
Exactly.
That's not the decision that you want your guild to be making. And that's really what I think most guilds have been saying is wow, can we really afford to have more than one of this class? And then with ranged, it's 3 and 4, and that's
why. It's we have 2 Shadow Priests, 2 Moonkins, 3 of all the pure ranged DPS classes. And it's you only want one ret, 2 DKs, 1 Windwalker, 1 Enhance, and it's just
if you have 1 Windwalker,
if that, and same with Enhance and stuff. So it's just I really hope it'll be a lot more even, because it's just it's just good game design.
Yeah, and I have a question for you guys, kind of along the same lines. That last one came from Render Entropy in chat, but I'm going to go with one in terms of general design changes to the way classes work. What do you guys think of the raid cooldown changes? We'll go with Roids on this one first. Have you an opinion?
Oh my god, the raid cooldown changes. You would have to fill me on that.
Oh yeah. Taking them off
so
sunglasses.
I could actually have an opinion on this if I know what they did. So I do know
best raid leader. Yeah.
Best raid leader in it. I do know that they gave hunters AoE casting while moving.
Yeah, AoE casting while moving.
So that's cool raid cooldown. You know, more
They
damage.
just have a
always
pseudo
nice.
healing cooldown.
May just have a 20% increased healing to everyone. Yeah. They have like the Guardian Spirit increased healing to the group raids. So I get okay. So that's an answer in and of itself. You don't really have an opinion on it. That's good. Well, I mean, but if you don't think that it's going to be like really bad or really good, I mean that's still relevant information.
Right.
You know, maybe those of us who are really concerned about it should chill out a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think...
Sorry. Go ahead. No. Enough.
I was just gonna say, for some of them, like that hunter cooldown is worrying to me because
a little bit.
3 minute cooldown, right? You can move for 6 seconds without losing any DPS. You bring think about this: Heroic Rush Phase 2, when you've got people running from point to point for stacking and people running out to go drop weapons and whatnot, depending on your strat. The way we do is, there's 3 raid cooldown groups for his AoE that he does. You could have 3 hunters in there that are providing this buff while people are moving in transit and have everything be up for the next phase.
I mean, I just don't
If you're optimizing movement, then it's very possible that you're only moving 3 times within 3 minutes.
Exactly.
Right.
Or,
yeah, that's what you're getting at.
Yeah, or like Phase 4, if you're trying to move from Malice 4 all the way across to the other side of the room, having a couple hunters to be able to do them back to back. It's the same thing as with Thok with putting up Devo Aura. It's like in some cases, the more of it you have, the more broken it gets.
Yeah, they literally had to change that encounter so that you couldn't do that. I mean, that's...
Yeah. With the 2 bosses we've tested, with 2 hunters in the raid, both movement phases would totally be covered. So you would actually never have to move during Gruul. You'd only have to move during the roof collapse phase, which is only every few minutes or so. So if you have 2 hunters, that's every minute and a half you can do that. So it's just I guess they are, it's just weird. They're removing our ability to do damage while moving, but also, unless you have 2 or 3 hunters in your raid, then you're good to go.
And there's nothing that says you can't have 2 or 3 hunters in your raid. So.
Right.
And I expect the top guilds to stack maybe 4 or 5 or 6 if it becomes that big of a deal.
If Blizzard sees that kind of stuff happening, though, and the whole Heroic Nefarian Feral Druid stuff happens again, they will adjust it. The first implications of Aspect of the Fox was oh my god, just bring them all. The issue is, though, hunters, comparing to pure range DPS classes that cannot turret, hunters do less damage because they don't have as stringent of issues with moving.
I am so skeptical that is going to make a difference.
I know,
but they're going to do such close but not quite damage. It's you're really not going to see it. And B, how many fights have been a DPS race? How many?
Well, for progression, it matters when they're all undergeared. That's what I meant. Yeah, that's what.
If there's
you generally get more out of optimizing movement and out of that raid CD than you would from replacing that hunter with another class.
But that's the whole point of this new style toward Warlords, is they're bringing back, honestly, a raising of the skill cap, because they're simplifying classes to a degree, so you know your rotation easier. You can do your deeps. Now you have to play around boss mechanics more and movement more, where right now you have to manage 9 buttons and 17 cooldowns, and you don't have to move ever. If you move, who cares? And damage doesn't matter because healers are OP. It brings back this. It almost feels like it's MOBA balancing, right? You have 4 to 6 main abilities, so they can make the encounters more difficult because your personal rotation to deal with the boss is simpler. Whereas right now, they can't make bosses super crazy stupid because you got 19 buttons to worry about, and if you don't hit all of them, you do no damage. So we'll have to see how that works, because it's a little extreme, of course, but I don't think raids are going to stack half a dozen hunters.
I don't think half a dozen, but I think they will stack 3. And in a 20-man raid, I think that's really bad. I 100% disbelieve that, oh, hunters do a little bit less single target DPS is going to control that whatsoever.
Correct. Sure.
I don't think it's going to be. I think that raid cooldown is not going to make it live. At least I hope not. I mean, and I said that about multiple other raid cooldowns, but like, this is the one where I think it's gonna break what they're trying to do with encounters way too much.
I feel really bad too because I was on Skype with Roger Brown and he was like, "Oh, I'm so excited! I tweeted Chad about this cool hunter cooldown, and now they're doing it, so I feel so special." It's like, 3 weeks later, your ability is fucking gone.
But that's the raid cooldown feel, and I guess that's why they want to give raid cooldowns to DPS, because they want people to have that reaction like Roger Brown did, where it's like, ooh, I have something awesome that's going to help the raid. And that's, I guess, why I miss Devo, is because like you have that nice button. But and I can see how they want the DPS to have that button. I don't know if the design of it, the way it is right now, is really going to work out well.
My first thought when I saw Aspect of the Fox initially was that it should not be 6 seconds of move while casting. It should be a buff Aspect of the Fox. You get 6 seconds to cast your next cast time spell while moving. So that if you have to do a move, you can cast 1 heal, you can cast 1 frostbolt, you can cast 1 chaos bolt, right? Not 6 seconds of squeeze everything in while you're moving, right?
Yeah, well, it's like you could be anywhere between 4 to 6 GCDs, and then what happens if it falls off? Are you allowed to like start channeling something and still move, or does it break?
I think it should snap to give you your next cast within 6 seconds while moving. Cast while moving.
And not only that, but it also just affects your talent choices. Now I have no reason to ever choose Kil'jaeden's cutting.
Exactly.
Ever. That talent is dead with hunters in the raid.
I think it should be niche enough where on certain counters it'll definitely come into play, but if it's stacked just so your casters can keep moving and healers can keep moving and casting, that circumnavigates the point of not being able to cast while moved, and the point of why they put a lot of heals on cast times. And that really trivializes the entire balancing of that. So I don't think it should be 1 next cast under like a super huge channel, or maybe even make super huge channels work. But I don't think it right now at 6 seconds cast whatever you want is a good way. That's too good.
I mean, what they can do is they can reduce or increase the cooldown, reduce the what was I gonna say?
The duration.
Reduce the duration, or they could or also reduce the range on it. So maybe like something like Druid Stampeding Roar that's very difficult to like pull off with the whole raid.
So it's like you have to stay clumped up.
Yeah, but right now, what is it? 40-yard range?
Roar? Is Roar 30?
Or not Roar, the Hunter.
The Hunter CD. Oh, probably 40-yard range.
Fox,
like
I'm pretty sure it's 40, yeah.
Yeah, see, that needs to go. That's a little... You should have to actually, you should like be forced to do something to get that effect. Like it needs to be a small, like Druid Roar. Like you have to be stacked on the Hunter to get it.
It's too good right now. That's just the first impression. It looks cool. It's too good.
And the other problem with the design is that people have been bringing up in chat that like, oh, it doesn't do anything for the Hunter themselves. And the real problem with that is that it makes the high-end Hunters and high-end Raiders love it. And all of the more casual players are like, this is a button I will never push, I don't care about it. So it's just this problematic button where some people think it's super OP, and like the vast majority of the hunters are like, why do I even have this button? And it's really not fun for them. And that's why it's a problem that it doesn't do anything for hunters. You really want all levels of hunters to enjoy it, not just the very top end.
There are some abilities on hunters that they can't cast while moving though. There are a couple, and that changes your talent, which is maybe. But that's the thing. Usually a raid cooldown, if you have it, isn't for you specifically, it's for the other 19 people. Like, I have AG now, that's all I have, where my damage and healing become more healing, basically. And that can help me in solo, but for a raid, it's to help blanket some healing.
Well, I know, but it actually helps you in solo. Like, I have pushed AG while soloing on my shaman. I have pushed Devo plenty of times on my paladin while soloing.
You can Aspect of the Fox in PvP and then power shot people as you backpedal. I did it! Yeah. There it is! Arms up in the air, I did it. There you go. Hunters are gonna freak out, but it's okay.
Yeah, I actually hope Roger's not watching this, because I was like, yeah, Roger, that's a good idea, man.
Oh, no. Poor Roger. We'll get him on here at some point.
Right. So, no, I want Roger for Hunters, but he's busy right now, so yeah. There goes Czech catching up to me. So, you had your dot snapshotting question?
Oh
Roids?
yeah.
Go
I
for
really
that because
wanna
we got to
answer
wrap up
that.
here.
Okay, so someone asked your thoughts on the dot snapshotting. So right now, you get procs or you get procs or cooldowns, and you can refresh your dots and have those take effect. But they want to do is just make it so your procs affect your dots passively. So
Correct.
there's no playing around your procs. All right, so my thoughts on this is I think it's bad, but I also don't like the current system. I think it's bad because obviously it takes a lot of skill away from the spec. In fact, without dot snapshotting, it's completely face roll. Like I could just, put my keybinds over here and just smash my keyboard. It's like it would be the worst spec without dot snapshotting. One thing I do extremely hate though is I hate dot snapshotting with random trinket RNG.
Of course.
Trinket procs. Like, it just makes me so apathetic about parsing. It makes me apathetic about the game in general.
Right.
When I have this overpowered trinket that actually doubles my primary stat when it procs, which is another thing. So I have this overpowered trinket that doubles my primary stats that procs randomly. I've had it proc on a boss at 40% before. And it's just like... So what I would like is 45-second ICD on trinkets. Make procs, like... Make them don't randomize them. Make them proc when they're supposed to proc. Make them guaranteed, and just make them like 100% proc rate every 45-second CD, or you could have some with like a minute and a half CD. Just make them predictable and make them like on a pattern, because it's just made me so apathetic about the game as AF, because your procs are just so influential. It's everything. So. When you don't get those procs, you actually do like no damage. So
it sounds to me like you're advocating for the return of
unused trinkets. That's what I was about to say.
Unused trinkets, yes.
Yeah.
Unused trinkets, or just there's a lot of trinkets that proc every 45 seconds consistently.
Yeah,
Either one works.
Trinkets.
Yeah.
Either one works. What needs to go is dot snapshotting with these trinkets that proc on the pool or at 40% of the boss. Not when the trinket proc doubles your primary stat.
Now, the dot snapshotting stuff, I did a huge illustration on this and used Feral Druid as an example. Some classes still have dot snapshotting, and some classes have the ignite mechanic with some of their dots. So there's not just like no dot snapshotting across the board anymore. Some classes have that integral part of their class. Now, like with Affliction, your dot snapshot is if you take like Shadowburn Haunt, or like timing your dot uptime to make sure they're all up when a trinket proc, so that they all gain the damage. There's still some play there, but for the most part, like, you don't wait for everything to go up in the air and then cast them, and then they'll all be OP. If procs happen during your rotation, you just gain the damage, you don't just lose it. So it's good and bad, right? And there's still some classes that guarantee from like Moonkins. Feral Druids, I could not find any outside of that weird Blood Talon Rake thing with Healing Touch, which I think is gone now. So there are some points of it, but it's not all gone. But research your class to make sure it isn't. Because technically I have dot snapshotting with Flame Shock, but that's gone. I don't know how Censure works, Anna, but I'm pretty sure now it's just going to whenever you do the things, it just gets more damage or less damage based off your paper doll. So, yeah. We'll have to see. I think it's good. I'm with you on that one, though, Roy. It's good and bad at the same time. Like, there are pros and cons to both systems, so...
Yeah, it just seems like a really easy fix to me, and
what's your issue is that the trinket workaround.
Yeah. The main problem is just trinkets that proc whenever they want, and that's just the main problem. Or if the trinkets are gonna proc whenever they want, don't make them do double your damage. Like
it's really a question of it's a question of scale, like we were talking about before with regard to item randomization. Like all of this would be much less of a big deal if that trinket wasn't worth so much, like such a ridiculous amount of DPS.
Yeah, like as AF right now, I just don't even care about parsing. You're just like a slave to RNG. So it's a really dumb way to play the game, and I really like dot snapshotting though, and I hope it's something that gets changed. But
they could include it as part of a trinket.
Yeah,
they could. They could, absolutely.
I just don't like this idea of so much DPS being on trinkets. We saw it a lot in MOP. I don't think we even saw it that much in expansions prior to MOP, but in MOP we just saw these OP trinkets that are just absurd. I don't know who finds that fun.
Yeah, exactly. exactly. It's
That's
like, yeah, I have 20k intellect on my gear, and a proc gives me 20k intellect. It's like,
right,
that's,
exactly.
like, what the hell?
Well,
and
I
then,
think they kind of went, okay, we're going to be doing a squish anyway. Let's just throw all caution to the wind. You get 3 stats on your cloak. And you get a proc that doubles your spell power.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And those like 3-second procs, or like the stacking trinkets that we saw for int and strength in Throne of Thunder. Like I don't find those things fun. I want my trinkets to be cool and good, but not like double my stats good, or like if you miss the proc, you're screwed kind of good.
Yeah, I kind of have this weird thought that in the paradigm of this game, weapons are melee, but trinkets are caster's lifeblood. Like
trinkets are melee lifeblood too.
It's not anywhere near as important though. Like the amount.
The feathers trinket and the CDR trinket are just as important for ret as they were for any class.
There's crossover
any
there.
Class.
The argument is that there's too much power in either RNG or passivity on trinkets that is just always this weird sway that there's always like either really good ones or really bad ones, and that's always been a problem with trinkets in overall. So honestly, they should be augments to your damage, but I think they should take down trinket power across the board and help quell this issue. Because we've always had this problem with trinkets, and it's really awkward, and it's frustrating for the reasons we've listed here. You were talking about Affliction being hard with trinkets, but I'm looking over here at TwinTop going like, that is like the only reason why Shadow Priest can do damage right now is trinket timing and RNG. So... Yeah,
and no, they can have trinket timing, just they can have it predictable. That's all I'm asking. Like, there's plenty of trinkets with 45-second ICDs that proc every 45 seconds or a minute and a half. It's just It's just when your best unsought trinket is this Immersius trinket that it really just procs whenever the hell it wants to. Like I've actually had it proc 40% on Iron Juggernaut before. It's just like well, I just missed my double intellect trinket for the whole fight, and AF's damage is completely based on your opener, so it's just like, okay, well, I guess this pull doesn't matter, and then it happens so consistently that eventually you just stop caring. Like me, I just don't care.
Yeah, and
we'll hope to see trinkets fixed a little bit next expansion. I guess this discussion is a reason why we should really be looking at the trinket design. I don't know if we've actually seen very much gear that's coming into the next tier, but trinkets are specifically something I'll be looking at.
Right. Yeah, and I wasn't trying to like shut you guys down with like what I thought, but there is definitely a problem errant here that is... I don't know. I wonder if they can fix it, because they always go into expansion and trinkets are always kind of okay, and then we get to the end and it's just like ridiculous, man. Or there's the issue with like the feathers trinket that you brought up, that like it's so good it almost destroys the next tier trinket. Feral Druids have that now with the hourglass. Like that shouldn't happen. That shouldn't happen. That's just rough. So.
Well, we'll see. It's definitely something that we should be looking forward to in beta then, to see what the design is like for next tier.
Right, we should.
That's the takeaway from this.
I think we're good to go on everything for after show stuff. Yeah? Pretty good?
Got to some stuff.
Is it over already?
Maybe. I'm pushing the button right now.
Oh, man.
Boop. There's the button.
He's got like 4 more hours of stuff to talk about. Sounds
I know.
Sounds like everyone should be following DPSonRoids.
I'm just getting buzzed right now. I'm good to go.
Oh, wow. Getting good.
We'll have to have you back
sometime. Again.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. DPSonRoids, the GM of Midwinter. Over on Twitter at DPSonRoids. Thank you again, sir, for being on the show. It was a pleasure.
Oh, yeah. It was so much fun. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome, sir. Over here, we got Mr. TwinTop from that /hug. You can go find his profile and all his socials and his write-ups for Shadow Priest on citrusdome.com on the staff section. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me.
It's always nice to have you on the show. And then we have Anna over here, our co-host of the show, over on Twitter as well at NFL. You can go follow her for posts about stuff and things, right?
Yeah, posts about stuff and things. Yep.
In that order.
In that order.
Yep, tons of stuff that doesn't really have to do with, WoW, but, just follow me on Twitter and you'll hear my opinions on plenty of stuff, and I'll be joining Bay on the Final Boss stream a little bit more these days, so that we can look at the beta testing and see what's going on there.
Gotta get you in those dungeons, though. And of course, my stuff is all over here on FinalBossTV. Find all our socials, our Facebook, our YouTube, our Twitter, all down below. Bloop, our website, all that stuff's right down below your screen eyeballs. So go check that out again. Next week, we're doing more beta junket impressions for the foreseeable future until launch comes out, or if we have any special guest things coming around. So next week will be 2 of something. I think either tanks or melee right now. Healers have to wait another week, I think, on healers. So melee or tanks next week. Beta impressions, talking to 2 people about stuff. So be sure to tune in for that. And again, have a good reset. Trust in that coin if you're rated. And until next week, guys, we will see you later. And bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.